Jody Dontje, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Now, today we've got a bit of a schedule that we want to talk about, but firstly I want you to kind of tell people exactly who you are and where you came from and like your little bit of a background of your story just so people can understand you a little bit more.
Yeah. So I've been on a bit of a journey when it comes to my voice, because I'm a public speaker and a conscious connection coach, working with emotional fitness. And so like any type of mission-based work that we do, we have a journey, right, that led to us being passionate about that. And for me growing up, I grew up with a beautiful family, my mum and dad, and a lot of struggles that happen in that family dynamic. And for, one example, we moved 16 times before I turned 18 years of age.
Yeah.
Right? Changing schools, whole states of Australia, whole communities. So I didn't really have a strong sense of where I belong because I was constantly moving, So as well as that, I wasn't really taught, as a lot of households weren't really in that generation, emotional fitness tools, like tools on how to handle that type of change or how to co-regulate and self-regulate when there is a lot of challenges that happen. And so really I came to a place where my identity was really not great. I had identity issues. I denied that I have multicultural parents. People would ask me, you seem mixed, where are you from? And I'd just say, I'm from Australia. I wouldn't say anything. I just Australian, right? And I am a first generation Australian, so it wasn't a lie. Like, it is true.
Like, yeah.
It's correct. But if they would say, what about your parents? I'd say they're Australian too. But actually my dad's Dutch and my mum's Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I'm half Dutch, half Chinese, first generation Australian. But because I had experiences of bullying and not really feeling as though I fit in because of all the moving, honestly, I denied my multicultural background completely for many years. Yeah, it was easier just to kind of push it away and ignore it, right? Ignore the truths. And so I really didn't own my voice a lot then growing up. I started becoming the shy girl in the classroom. I was afraid to put my hand up. I was afraid to be seen. And that led me then on the journey of becoming a, public speaking and emotional fitness coach, because I started to realize how much more self-worth and confidence and what I was able to create as a leader in my life once I learned emotional fitness tools, once I learned how to own my voice. Those two pieces were paramount to the life that I get to live now. Literally, I was thinking this morning, like, I've manifested my dreams, right, in so many areas of my life, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for those two main pieces, which is also what I struggled the most with as a kid, which is now why I'm so passionate about it. So it's
nice. What was there any like one moment or like one big turning point for you that was like, shit, I need to do something about this? Or was it kind of a little bit more gradual that, with all the moving and stuff, that each time maybe something little changed? What do you reckon it was?
It's a good question. I think two pieces come in my mind of really turning points in my life where I started to realize how important it is to be more emotionally aware, or I started to realize the importance of my voice, right? So once was kind of towards the end of high school, and one of my bullies, actually, she had really made my life hell in a lot of ways. And this one day she was sitting by herself. Usually she was with this other group that were also equally as mean. Yeah. And she was sitting by herself. And I remember I was walking in the schoolyard and I saw her and I was like, oh, and I turned right around, right? Because I was like, I don't want to go near her.
Yeah.
But in that moment when I turned around, I realized like she's sitting alone and she didn't seem like a threat. But because I had had so many experiences with her, I thought I just got to run.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later when I got home that I thought to myself, I know how it feels to be sitting alone. I know how it feels to feel that I'm the outsider. And she had that type of vibe that day.
Yeah, that energy was coming from her type of thing.
That energy, right? And so it took me hours, but I was thinking I should reach out to her. I should ask her what's going on. But of course, she was my bully. So that was my enemy, my arch nemesis back in high school. And so I thought, that's really scary, because if I reach out to her, then she could turn on me even more, right? And after a few hours of pacing back and forth in my bedroom, I thought, I'm going to reach out to her. So I sent her a message and I just said, hey, I'm just letting you know you're not alone. I'm here if you want to share anything. And the craziest thing happened.
You become friends.
Wait. She ended up sharing everything with me.
Yeah,
what's
right.
going on at home, what's going on with her friends, what's going on with school, how she was feeling, all of this, all of that. Now, did she apologize for how she had bullied me? No. And after we had had that conversation, were we friends? No. However, at the end of messaging that day, she said to me, no one had ever asked her truly how she was or let her know that she wasn't alone. And she thanked me. And the next day in the schoolyard, she said hi, but we didn't really talk because we weren't really friends. But she never bullied me from that day forth. And so even when she started developing her friendship groups again, she would just give me like a respectful nod.
Yeah.
And there was just this mutual respect. But it was, you know, an experience that shifted everything for me, because I realized sometimes in life there's going to be people that we don't gel with or we don't get along with. And then it made me, when I grew older, realize there's also going to be parts of ourselves that we're not feeling as connected to. But are we able to form a sense of love and respect and connection with those parts within ourselves and with other people, even if we don't feel we're eye to eye on everything? And so that was a turning point where I started to realize that we're all human. We all go through struggles and changes. And that led me on a path of really developing my emotional fitness, my awareness, you know. And the second one, I'll share a shorter story than I normally do, was when I finished high school. I think this was maybe my 17th home or something by that stage.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know. And I finished high school and I was going to university at a whole new place again. Now, no one knew me at that university. I got out of the car and I started walking towards the university doors. And I still, to this day, do not know where I learnt this quote, but it's from George Bernard Shaw. And it's that life is not about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself.
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
Right? And I was walking towards the doors and I had that quote come into my head and I thought, no one knows me on the other side of those doors. Like literally when I walk through those uni doors, I can be whoever I want to be.
For sure.
I don't have to be that shy or that freaked out version of me, you know, the one that's holding back. Like what if I walked through those doors and I was this confident version of me? And so I walked through the doors with this level of fire I hadn't experienced for quite some time. And I was kind of like, hi world, like I'm here. And the first person that I saw when I walked through the university doors was my university mentor, coincidentally. She was standing right there. And she was like, oh, you Jody, you know, and we started talking. And I was like, I felt the fire. I was like, how can I fuel this into something? And that's when she introduced me to mentoring and coaching. And I actually became a mentor that same year. I trained in the first year of uni. And after that, I was a mentor for new university students every single year after that during my 4-year degree.
Yeah, right. So it was like a job inside the university type of thing. And it was just
Yeah.
kind of like a do this leadership role. Like,
Yeah.
what was I going to say? The orientation days and stuff like that. Did you like lead people around and all that type of stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So it was almost like I was this new student and, you know, this beautiful mentor helped me feel at home, helped me feel safe, right? 'Cause
Yeah, gotcha.
emotional fitness is all about building safety. So I realized, oh, how can I help other people feel safe? And that's when it changed the trajectory of my life as well, because I started to public speak through that mentorship program. And then I started volunteering more than I ever worked for money during university. And secondly, because of that experience back in high school, it helped me have the empathy and develop the empathy tools, right? And that changed my life. So I'd say those two experiences were really the times when I started to realize the importance of emotional fitness, conscious communication, all of that.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild, because I kind of have like two very similar stories, or I resonate highly with that. Like when I went into the Navy, I'll work backwards from your two stories.
Yeah.
Anyone that went in there, we were all from all over Australia. And like, I remember having conversations with people being like, someone would say, oh, I don't really like this person, or this person's a little bit like this, or this person a little bit like that. And I was just like, I wonder if that's what they were like before. You know, whether people had that kind of epiphany like what you did, where you can go somewhere where no one knows you, you can walk through those doors and you can just become anyone who you want to be. And I distinctly remember, that's why I was like smiling before when you were saying it, because I was like, what the hell? Like, I've had that before. I didn't know the quote, but I was just like, yeah, that rings so hard. And then before, or a few years later, just before I like dove into heavy like depression and anxiety and stuff like that, I remember, I've told this story before, but one of my teachers who I had at the start of my Navy career, Mr. Cooper, absolute legend, also had me like 18 months later. And I don't know, I was just in like a foul mood one day or something like that. And like a few things had happened. I'd had a surgery on my wrist and like all this type of stuff. And yeah, he just politely said, "Hey Sam, do you want to come have a chat?" And we went into the room next door, and then he was like, literally was like, "You can tell me to piss off. I just want to let you know that I'm the mental health ambassador for this place," all this type of stuff. And he's like, "You can 100% tell me to piss off. But," he's like, "I'm just going to ask you one question and then you can leave." And I was like, "No worries." And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I literally just like, it was sitting like at a table like this as well. And I just remember like breaking down. I like started crying and shit, and I'd like never cried to anything like that. And literally that day I went and like seeked help and all that type of stuff. Like I went straight to the Cerberus Health Center and like all that type of stuff. So I was super powerful. So I was on the receiving end of like something like what you did, and it can absolutely change someone's life, because it changed mine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel so much emotion here.
Yeah, it's huge. Hey.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That very simple moment, right, of just asking, how, like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Right. And just you felt the safety in that moment that your body could just let the emotion out that you'd been holding on to for so long.
Yeah.
You finally felt safe and seen.
Yeah.
Gosh,
yeah. And it like gives me, like, I've got goosebumps now. I'm not sure if you can say it, but but yeah, that was like a super powerful turning point for me in my life. And I think that's where my like emotional fitness journey started as well, or like my, I don't know if it's a road to recovery or what it was, because I don't really know where I was or what level I was at when I did it. But I was like, I think, can you explain emotional fitness and what it actually is? That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I like calling it emotional fitness. Some people call it, mental health or emotional health or well-being. Like there's different words of the same kind of core piece, right? When I talk about emotional fitness, it's like when we are at the gym and we're building our muscles, our physical muscles, right? The more effort we put in, the more awareness we put into how to work with our body, the more our body works for us, the more we build those muscles. It's the same thing with our emotions. The more we're there and we understand our emotions, the more we work with our emotions and we develop that muscle, the more they work with us, right? And there's so many people who struggle with anxiety or depression or having detrimental fears, right? And those experiences, those are all just parts of us that are wanting some attention. They want us to work with them. They actually don't want to work against us, right? Or to keep us stuck. They want us to thrive. It's just they don't know how else to work with us. Just like we have to train certain muscles to become stronger, we've got to train our emotions to almost become, or rather we become stronger in our true self to be with our emotions. So I like to call emotional fitness almost like building the emotional muscle.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's like an actual thing though, isn't it? Like you can train parts of your brain to like make things easier. Like I don't know the parts of the brain or whatever that it works, so I'm not even going to try. But like the more you do things like that you dislike and stuff like that, the easier they become. Like I know getting in the ice bath, right? I like that's one of the it's just an easy one. But I remember when I first came back to Bali a little while ago, I was getting in and I was like, nah, out. And then like even my friends that come in, I'm like, yeah, let's go to an ice bath, and they're like, oh, it's so cold. I can literally just get in, head under, chill out like it's just a normal pool now because I've done it for so long. And it's just like training that little bit in your mind to be able to do stuff.
To know that you're okay and that you can be calm in that situation. And that's a great example because that's both the physical and the emotional. Well, actually, it's all energetic, the spiritual too in those moments. The ice bath, you've got to really hone in,
what's
right?
Happening. That's absolutely wild. I was going to say, do you think people can take it too far? Like the emotional fitness is great and all, but do you think people can just kind of like knock it over the edge and just
like get lost in the emotion, as in?
No, like Oh, maybe, but, or, what am I trying to say? Maybe by take it too far, I mean, like, I had an encounter with someone where they were like, if that's the way that you feel about it, that's okay. And it was like an action that they did that made me feel something. They're like, if you feel that way, that's your issue. Like, you know, kind of almost gaslighting in a way, but like it wasn't, that clearly wasn't their intention.
Yes.
But it's like, I have to feel this way so I don't get upset about it. So if you feel that way about it, like, is that taking it too far in the emotional fitness thing?
Depending on that situation, right, that could be either an experience where they are not actually tapping into the empathy side, right? So they're kind of in their own emotional world and they're like, everyone's sovereign, so I'm actually going to disregard how you feel from my action, instead of going, yeah, we're all sovereign and responsible for our own emotions, and that whole co-regulation. We've got to be aware we influence each other, right? So it's like I know I'm responsible. If you say something and I feel anger, I'm responsible for my anger. However, maybe what you said was actually very disrespectful and not actually socially appropriate, right? So then it would be incredible for your room of growth to actually be able to reflect on, hey, maybe this particular thing I said in this context was not actually the most, appropriate. So this is where there's got to be discernment.
Yeah, okay.
Like the gift of the emotional fitness journey is the gift of discernment, of knowing when it's to go, I'm going to trust that they need to process, and actually what I did it was fine and they're just having an emotional reaction, and still having empathy but not being the rescuer.
Yeah, okay.
Or
gotcha.
sometimes when we actually do really need to lean in with empathy and really be there for someone, right? Because then it can be gaslighting, which is actually kind of the opposite of emotional intimacy.
Yeah, true.
Right? It's kind of like, it's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
And if we bring up the point about getting lost in emotion, sometimes people are like, oh, Jody, I'm afraid to open this part of me or to explore these memories or these parts of my past, because what if the emotion's so much that I can't escape it? It's like opening Pandora's box and I get lost in the emotion. The thing is, the whole point of emotional fitness is to come back to our true self. Like in IFS, internal family systems, I've done over $150,000 worth of different modalities of healing and growth, and one of the modalities I absolutely love is IFS, internal family systems, parts work. And that understanding is that we are our true self. We're our 8 C's of self. Like my true self is calm. Your true self is calm and connected and courageous and confident and clear. And like our true self has clarity, for example. So there's 8 C's of self. Whenever we're not feeling those qualities, it means there's an emotion, there's a part of us that's active that needs a little bit of attention.
Gotcha.
That needs a little bit of, maybe giving it an ear to share some wisdom with us, or it needs a little bit of love. So the journey really for us is to be able to move with our emotions and come back to our true self, instead of getting lost in the emotions. Like, oh, I feel anger, now I'm angry forever.
Yeah.
For 40 years, I'm now going to be angry forever, you know, or sadness. Like, I'm now never going to stop crying.
Yeah.
Our body, when we're feeling safe and we're connected, that doesn't happen. We just move with our emotion, and the emotion moves through us. And then we come back to our true self. We come back to calm. We come back to confidence. For those who feel like they get stuck in a mood over a long period of time, they're not actually fully allowing that emotion. They're touching the surface and then kind of lingering there instead of going fully in it. And that's why sometimes moods can go on for ages and ages and ages, because we're not fully going there, releasing the stuck emotion, releasing whatever needs to be released, and then coming back to our true self.
Yeah. Would you say that that's like, I've always explained that type of stuff as like emotional maturity. I suppose that kind of is exactly what it is, because once you're mature enough with your emotional fitness type of scenario, you know how to regulate or know how to come back. Like once you're feeling a certain way. And that's one of the big things actually. Like I was just thinking while you were saying that, like that's one big thing for me. I am a super emotional person. You can normally tell exactly by my face, or like I will tell you exactly how I'm feeling or whatever. Just try to be as honest as I can. But then like me and my dad are actually a great example in this. We could be on the golf course or something like that, and he'll be like chirping in my ear about something. They'll tell me how to do something. I'm like, piss off. And we'll like have a bit of a scuffle or something like that. And then we'll put our golf sticks away and then like walk off. And then it's like, it's not that it didn't happen, but it's that we've both got the emotional maturity and we know that he was just saying this and he thought he was doing the right thing. It pissed me off and he didn't realise it, or vice versa, whatever it is. And we will blow up each other for 2 seconds and then we can just be like, all right, sweet, what's next? Like, and that's just how we are. Whereas like me with some other people and stuff like that, it's just like, just butt heads the whole time. And I try and move away. And by no means am I perfect. I can hold grudges as well. But you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I think, yeah, the emotional maturity of being able to let something go and be like, that wasn't a personal attack, or that wasn't this or wasn't that, is huge. And I suppose there's lots and lots of parts, like you said, like the 8 C's and stuff like that, to make sure that you can kind of keep all those pathways clear for all those type of things. That's that was huge.
Like not judging our parts, right? Like not judging our anger part, not judging our even joy. Some people judge joy when they feel joy. You know, Brené Brown calls it foreboding joy, which is they feel joy and then they go, but what if this is not going to last? Now something terrible is going to happen.
Okay.
Oh, I can't experience this level of joy and peace without something, you know, that's going to happen next. That's going to ruin it all. So that foreboding joy. So even
that's like heavy victim mindset, though, isn't it?
Well, it's actually very normal psychologically because we naturally want to look for threats. We want to be on alert, you know, hypervigilant, because based on a lot of when we have our childhood experiences of having moments of peace, but then moments of, you know, a lot of things coming up, there is this psychological pattern that we can have of wanting to be safe, right? Yeah, okay. And at the same time, this is where that emotional maturity piece comes in, to be able to be with our emotions, to be like, it's safe for me to feel joy and it's safe for me to feel anger. So therefore, if you're angry, then I can feel safe in witnessing your anger. But it's different to aggression, right? So for example, you and your dad have a scuffle, like a little moment, but you actually like physically hit each other, or you actually say really detrimental things to each other, or you put each other down in a really, you know, detrimental way. That, for example, would be more aggression. Yeah. Okay. But if you both were just feeling anger and you have this moment and then you both are like, okay, and then you're able to move through that, you felt it, you didn't suppress it, you moved through it. And then you, like what you said, you don't take it personally, you go, we had a moment. Yeah. And then you come back to love, you come back to connection. That's really beautiful because you're moving through the emotion. Neither of you are suppressing it. And, you know, I trust that, you know, neither are kind of like in the aggression. It's more you're just feeling it and then you move through it. Yeah. And you continue on with joy or other emotions. Yeah. So that's definitely emotional maturity. But we cannot be okay with someone else's emotions until we're okay with those emotions within ourselves.
That's super interesting. So how does someone like learn to be okay with that type of stuff? Because I have no idea how I got to the point that I'm at. Like, I went on this crazy self-help journey and like I just read and ingested and got as much information as I could around everything. But if you were to ask me how I became the person I am today, no idea. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so. And that's actually really beautiful and humble of what you've just shared, because that is for a lot of people the journey, which is a kind of an unconscious journey to a more emotional maturity. It's an unconscious journey to learning the things like taking things less personally, being less reactive and more proactive, like all those pieces. If people want to fast track consciously their emotional fitness, their conscious communication skills, their ability to be better at sales or business relationships, better at relationship in general, intimate relationships, family, friends, the relationship with themselves, if they want to fast track that all, then there's tools we can consciously implement, right? There are so many. The first one I'll talk about is just the 4 steps to emotional intimacy to begin with. Mm-hmm. This is just about building safety in the body, right? So the first thing is to name what we're feeling. I've worked with people who've not gone into their internal world at all. And when we're trying to name how they're feeling, they're just like, I don't know. They're literally like trying to connect and like, I don't know how I feel. And I feel emotion with that because that's how I felt a lot of my childhood, not understanding what's happening inside. Mm. And so one of the first steps to emotional intimacy is to understand that there are sensations, feelings, and emotions in our body. So if we can't access what the emotion is yet, or even what the feeling is, we can start with sensations. Okay. So it's simply closing the eyes and going, okay. So let's say someone's about to public speak. okay?
Yeah.
Because obviously being a public speaker, it's like, I'll use that extra
Yeah. Well, like, I think I've heard you say before, like, public speaking is a bigger fear than, like, spiders or, like, arachnophobia or whatever it's called. Like,
According to Psychology Today, public speaking is one of the biggest fears in the world. People would rather be in a really small space with spiders or die. Like even high up, like heights, arachnophobia, claustrophobia, even death rated lower on the psychological test than public speaking.
That's wild, isn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
So let's say someone, I'm glad you brought that up, because let's say there's someone listening to this, right? Like this podcast episode is all around developing conscious leadership so we can have success in all areas of life, including business and all of that. So let's say someone wants to public speak. They want to communicate more. They want to put themselves out there more, okay? So they close their eyes and they go, all right, what sensations am I feeling in my body? So it could be like, okay, I'm feeling my heart is thudding. I can feel my stomach feels butterflies and it feels sick. So it's like, okay, my sensation is butterflies in the tummy, beating heart. I've got a bit of a heavy head. So they can start with that. Simple as that, right? Building safety that they can be in that sensation and it's totally fine. Then it's like a feeling. Okay, I feel like I'm feeling a bit agitated, feeling a little bit, oh, like I want this to be over. I'm feeling a little bit like, can I just hurry this up? Okay, that's the feelings. And then the emotions is, okay, I'm feeling anxiety.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'm feeling fear. See how there's different layers?
Yeah. I was just about to say that makes so much sense. Like now you say that, and that little pathway of, I'm feeling this, and then it kind of, that recognition then comes once you're like, I feel the butterflies. What's normal to feel with butterflies and a thumping heart? It's like, well, am I nervous or am I anxious or am I this or am I that? What am I feeling? And then, so just that's kind of peeling it back and then recognition.
And it can take time. There's people I've worked with where it took us quite a few sessions for them to get to a place where they can really identify the emotions clearly. And that's okay. It's not about judgment, right? We're all on our own journey in terms of that emotional intimacy. We weren't often taught a lot of this growing up in our family system. So it's normal if it takes time. And for others, they can pick it up quicker. It just depends, right? So that's the first step. It's naming it, naming how we feel, sensations, feelings, and emotions, right? The second step out of 4 is to own it. So for example, let's say this, Sam, right? We're having this podcast. Let's say I'm super nervous, which I'm actually very calm because I feel so excited about this podcast. But let's say I was super nervous and I was like, wow. Now, the second step is own it. Imagine instead of owning that this is my experience, these are my sensations, feelings, and emotions, I was like, F you for bringing me on this podcast. It's your fault that I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't, I don't know, whatever, like give me a lime in my thing and now I'm agitated even more.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say I blamed.
Yeah.
That is the opposite to emotional intimacy. That is going to actually take me further away from myself.
Okay.
So when we blame and we project, we disconnect further from our experience on our own individual level, right? This doesn't mean we wouldn't hold people accountable to actions that aren't aligned, but it's if we are blaming or projecting the reason we're feeling this is purely because of someone else, we are then disconnecting from our own experience and therefore our own emotional intimacy and fitness.
Yeah.
Right, so let's say I did that. So what I would want to do differently then is to go, okay, maybe you didn't give me my lime. So I'm like, you know, by the way, for everyone to know, I don't want a lime in my water. This is just an example. But let's say, right, in that moment, what I would do is I'd catch myself. Oh, I'm blaming Sam right now.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, hang on. Connect back to myself. And the step number 2 is own it.
Yeah, okay.
Own that these are my sensations, feelings, and emotions. Okay, it's like, okay, maybe Sam forgot this or that or whatever else, or maybe he invited me on his podcast and now I'm feeling this, but this is my experience. These are my emotions. These are my feelings. And as soon as I own it, that opens up to step number 3. And step number 3 of emotional intimacy, which is that emotional fitness, process, is to feel it, is to actually allow myself to feel what I'm feeling. So it's like, okay, it's okay for me to feel this. Part of feeling it, there are so many layers, and I've taught whole courses over weeks on this. So I'm just going to briefly mention a few things. There's a thing called red light language and green light language.
Gotcha.
Red light language is putting a stop on what we're feeling. So for example, I'm feeling the butterflies, but then my dad's voice comes into my head that's saying, you shouldn't be nervous, you should get on with it, right? So then I go, I shouldn't feel this. I shouldn't feel nerves. I should get on with it. That's red light language. That's putting a stop to me feeling what I'm feeling.
Yeah, putting a block in the way. Yeah.
Putting a block. And so then I can't access it. Then I'm like actually just in numbness. Like, no. So then I'm not actually healing or being with myself, right? Green light language is, it's okay for me to feel this. It's totally normal for this feeling to be here. I'm safe with this feeling. That's green light language. That's the okay. It's go time. We can feel it. And so like what you said in your story, which really connected to my heart, you had your, what would you call him? Your teacher?
Yeah, just a TAFE teacher.
TAFE teacher, yeah. You had your TAFE teacher, you know, say, first of all, he gave you permission. So he was saying, you can totally tell me to piss off, right? Which is so fantastic because he took off any expectation that it has to be a certain way.
And he used my language as well.
He used your language.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. He used the language that you could connect to, right? Yeah.
Australian middle-aged 20s like language. Yeah.
Yeah, with NLP, right? It's really important to use language like in a very conscious way. But yeah, so he took away any judgment because he was saying, I'm not going to judge you whether you want to answer this or not. He took away the judgment. Just like, for example, I'm connecting my emotion, I take away the judgment. And then he helped you feel safe. And in his case, it was asking, are you okay? So the same thing in this situation, it'd be like, first of all, it's okay for me to feel this. And I totally don't judge myself. And it's like, okay, once I feel it's okay and I feel safe, then the emotion comes up. Like you.
Yeah.
Then your emotion came up.
Yeah.
Right?
There was like I distinctly remember as well, there was like a split second where I was like, huh?
Oh.
And then I was like, I almost think I had that feeling like, I'm in a safe space, it's fine. Like, because there was no one else around me or anything like that. There was just me and him. It was like super like intimate. And I was just like, yeah, sick. I can let go here because, and I'd known him for a little while as well. So, and then, that's sick.
He built the safety.
Yeah, built the safe space. But
that's so amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
No, it's all good.
It's so cool. And like to give context on a science level to what you just shared, these scientists did this exercise where they had this organism and they put this organism in a petri dish and then they put some poison, into the petri dish. And the organism had no choice but to suck that poison in. And it kept it in. It didn't let it go. They then took this organism into a clean and safer environment, into a clean petri dish. And they dropped the organism in there, and the organism straight away let go of the poison and let it out.
Interesting.
Think about us. We're in our childhood. We're in a home environment, school environment, community environment where we don't feel safe. There are experiences of emotional abuse or physical or linguistic abuse or whatever. It doesn't even have to be abuse. There's just everyday dysfunctional things happening and we don't feel safe as a child. We can't then feel and process what we're feeling because we're told, shut up, don't feel your emotions, that's not okay. There's a lot of red light language. What does the child do? Pushes it down because all a child wants is love. All a child wants is to feel love, feel safe. If it doesn't, then it will do anything to feel safe. So they go, oh, if I don't feel my emotions, then I receive love. So I'm going to try my best not to feel my emotions. Then, for example, in your case, like as well, this child grows up into an adult and finally is in an environment that feels safe. Finally, they can let go of that poison. I don't want to call it that, but it's just an example, right?
Yeah.
They can let go of that emotion finally. They can finally let their emotions out. You know, it's like with this amazing man that I was dating, it's like, was saying that never found a more emotionally safe place before and was like, why am I crying all the time? Why am I feeling all this emotion?
Yeah.
And that's because I take a huge responsibility on being a safe place for people. And so as soon as he felt he was in that safe environment, finally all these emotions could come up.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is what we want to be like as emotionally mature people, is that we can be that safe place for others because we're that safe place for ourselves, like that TAFE teacher was for you. And so that's step number 3 is to feel it.
Yeah.
And how do we feel it? Build more safety in our own environment first, be the safe petri dish ourselves for our organism to release.
Yeah.
And to also make sure we're more in safe environments as well, we can feel it. And the last step, drum roll, the last step out of the 4 is let it be. let it be. Sometimes if we're feeling sad, instead of like, I have to feel my sadness and get over it. What if sadness can be there and I can rock on and have a great day?
Yeah.
It doesn't consume me, but what if that part can still be with me? What if it's not about trying to force, which sometimes is the spiritual shadow, right? People in the spiritual realm can either have the shadow of completely being in high light and vibe, so they don't want to feel any other emotions, when actually all of our emotions are powerful. Or it's the other way around. It's like, I want to heal because if I don't heal, then I'm not enough.
Yeah.
But it's like, what if some of our parts can remain unhealed, in terms of what if some of our emotions can still be there, or our emotions can still be playing out these safety mechanisms, but we're still lovable. A question I love is, if this part of me, let's say I have a shameful addiction, if this addictive part of me was to remain, can I still love myself?
Oh, that's heavy, isn't it?
Can I still love myself even if this part of me was to remain a part of me? And once we can answer yes to that, that's when a lot of us can start the journey of letting go of a lot of addictions and be kinder to ourselves. Because healing can swing the other way of, I'm then not lovable, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy unless I heal this.
Yeah.
But that's not the question. The question is, can I still love myself even if this was still here?
Yeah, I think the first step to that's recognition as well. Like, you've got to be able to be emotionally fit enough to recognise, to recognise those things, a bit like self-awareness.
Yes.
Because I know for a fact, like myself and even other people, it can be very, very difficult to be self-aware in the addiction space, be it like alcohol, drugs, or playing computer games, I don't know, watching porn or something, like, I don't know,
Social
like
media.
Anything. Just to be able to recognise, like, hey, this is an actual issue.
Yes.
To be able to recognise that, I think, is so difficult.
It's so challenging. Why is the first step of like the, what do you call it? Addictions Anonymous process. So overcome it is to accept that there's a challenge.
Yeah.
Right. To accept that it's an addiction. Because that denial part of us wants to hold on to the addiction so much, it doesn't even want us to admit that there is a problem, that there is a challenge, right? And when it's actually that we can learn to love ourselves with that addiction and then go on the path of overcoming it. But there's so much shame that sometimes we can find it hard to admit that there's even an addiction, right? So, yeah, it's a big journey.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. So,
those are the 4 steps. Name it, own it, feel it, and let it be. And if someone can keep working on those 4, they can really start to develop the emotional fitness foundation. To then, there's so many other modalities to go even deeper with it, and there's modalities that can support each of those 4. But those 4 are the main 4, to be able to support with that foundational level of emotional fitness. Yeah.
That's good. I think people can like actually use that, and like you can action that pretty much straight away. I think. So like, because once you know those 4 little things, that you can just be like, okay, mate, like some people might not have the time, but I'm sure you can.
Well, what's it costing us not to have emotional fitness,
I was just
right?
about to say, like, if you're in the car or something and someone cuts you off and you get all mad about it and stuff, and then you're still mad when you get home, if you sit with it and just be like, whatever, and then go through the 4 steps, and then you can go on and cook dinner and enjoy yourself instead of cooking it with a scratch in your pan or something and then making it worse.
That's right. So, even to the point of the talk about the family system, let's say like, a mother or a father has someone cut them off in traffic and then they feel anger, then they come home and they take it out on their kids. Oof.
Huge.
Right? This is why it's like, if we want to heal the majority of the issues in our today's society, we've got to start with emotional fitness.
Yeah.
You think about war and domestic violence and suicide rates, like, where does that stem from?
Yeah, the mind.
The body, the mind, the inability to be with ourselves and feel safe in ourselves. So we project on others and we take it out on others, repeat the patterns of the past. It all stems from that, Yeah. And
that works in with business and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Like I know you were saying before about it all ties in as well with leaders and stuff like that. So we might move into that a little bit, into the sense of how does emotional fitness play into leadership roles, and like is it just managerial positions, do you think? Or do you think just like anyone in the workplace is better off?
Everyone.
Yeah, true.
Everyone.
As soon as I was asking that question, I knew you were going to say that. It was like rhetorical
like,
almost.
I'm answering my own question. Everyone, whether someone's an entrepreneur and a single, like one-man band kind of business owner, whether they have a team to manage, whether they're a manager in an organization, emotional fitness, emotional maturity, conscious connection tools is everything. Like, think about this. It doesn't matter what business. Is it or is it not built on relationship building?
Yeah, everything.
Everything. Like, who's going to buy our products or buy our services? People. So building relationships and knowing how to build relationships with people is paramount.
Yeah, exactly.
People are like, oh yeah, I don't have to do self-development around relationships, other things. It's like everything is relationships. And how to have healthy relationships, emotional fitness tools. Like, this is the vibe, right? It doesn't matter whether, it's an organization or a business. The better tools we have in understanding people, aka understanding ourselves, the more we're able to have better relationships, healthier relationships, build more trust, more rapport, and lead better. I have a team that have been an amazing team over many years that have helped me build my business to multiple 6 figures a year and help people all around the world. And they have told me many times, like, they've worked more hours because they believe in the vision. They believe in me. They've gone out of their way. They've really just been the most incredible team. And that's because I really do show them so much love. And when there's mistakes or there's challenges, and this is what people can often miss the opportunity for actual more connection in leadership roles and as business owners, is they'll blame and project their anger or their frustration onto their team, onto the people around them. Whereas for me, I'm very clear. My boundaries are clear. If something's repeated 3 times, I will bring it up and be like, hey, how can we work better so this mistake doesn't keep happening, right? I'll be clear, but I come with so much love and respect that my team feel that I'm really helping them rather than attacking them. Right? And so they go up and beyond to do better, to show up better, to work better as a team. So people who are leaders in organizations or business owners, if they're taking their emotions out on other people, is that going to build more trust or deter the trust? It's all about that trust building and that emotional safety. How do we do that? First, we have to feel safe within ourselves as leaders. We can name it, own it, feel it, let it be. We can work with our emotions. We can let go of past patterns so we don't project. Then we can, in leadership roles, in managerial roles, see each person as their true self energy. Each person is this beautiful human being. And if they're angry or they're sad or they're playing out patterns in the workplace or in our businesses, that's just a part of them that's needing some attention, a part of them that's needing some love, a part of them that would like to be spoken to like you were, where it was like, hey, are you okay? Right? When people feel emotionally safe, they will be more vulnerable. When people are more vulnerable, they can build more trust. When there's more trust in the workplace or in a business, it thrives more. There's so much science behind it. More revenue, more, coherent workplace teams. Like, it all increases from the foundation of emotional safety.
Yeah. Super interesting. It takes me back to when I used to work at McDonald's for a long time, and I worked my way up like to managerial position and all that type of stuff, and I think I was telling you just before the podcast that I had someone message me, just like saying, oh, the podcast was great, blah, 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 all this type of stuff. But I've also had another girl message me who I used to work with at McDonald's, and she's been struggling for the last few years and all this type of stuff. And just the stuff that we've spoken about on here, like, I think this episode will do really good for her. But even just the other episodes, she was just like, hey, I really appreciated like the journey that you've been on, and everything that you've spoken about, it really hits home. I think it can help me and stuff like that. And for her to reach out was awesome. That's not where I was going with this story. But I used to work with her, and she used to say, like, I love working with you. Like, you're my favorite manager to work for and all that type of stuff. And I think it's because when I used to work, I used to hate working with some managers. I just remember they're just like barking orders at you and all that type of stuff. And there was no emotional fitness in there because they would just bark orders at you, and then they would still be shitty once the rush hour was over or something like that. And I was the opposite in a sense. I used to be like, come on guys, let's get these cheeseburgers down, la, 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 or I'd go and help them or whatever it is. And I don't know, like, people just used to really resonate, and I liked working with people and they liked working with me, and it was kind of like, because maybe I was more emotionally fit than aware, I helped these people. And these people were like, some kids were like, didn't work for some managers. They'd just be like folding the cheeseburger and just like throwing it down the line. But for me, they were like unreal. They were cool people. Like we did heaps better than what we normally would.
Yes.
And I was just like, this is sick. So when another manager comes to me and be like, oh, Jody's really shit at order taking and like, you know, always takes forever to cash the car or do this type of stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, she's awesome when I work with her. And they'll be like, really? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, I would have her in my dream team like every single day, you know what I mean? So it's like having that emotional fitness that, again, I was probably unaware of that I had at that stage. But being able to make people feel things as well, I think, is huge in the leadership space, to be able to make someone do something better than what they would for someone else. So,
Sam, that is such a great example. First of all, can I acknowledge you?
Yeah, sure.
Because you weren't as aware of it at the time. I trust now you can give yourself the credit that you deserve to even give yourself the credit for back then.
Yeah,
that is
sure.
So incredible. To have a manager like you, for example, in a workplace is what people need to see as a demonstration of how safe workplaces can be. You brought your true self energy, and you had, done enough self-development and growth, and you were safe enough emotionally. You helped the people in your team to thrive, and so they had better results and they were showing up better. And that's a huge testament to your personal growth, for you to be able to lead in that way. We need more leaders like you, honestly. It's so amazing.
You, appreciate it.
When I met you too, I straight away was like, I could feel your emotional safety, your down to earth, your connection to yourself, and therefore how we connected. And I thought, this is why I wanted to do a podcast when you were talking about that, because I thought, yes, I love your energy. Is it cool that I can give that, what you just shared, as like an example to build upon what we just talked about?
Yeah, go.
Yeah. You have the manager you're talking about who was barking orders. Are they in their true self energy, or are they maybe leading from a part of them?
If I think about just like one that like instantly pops into my mind, I won't say any names or anything like that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like
probably leading more from their part, maybe of like frustration or anger, or like, that push perhaps, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's pressure. I think there's pressure from above as well. So like it kind of the old food chain type of scenario.
So
where
then they were leading from the pressure part of them, which we have compassion. You understand? Okay, people at the top, they were giving them pressure, so they're putting pressure on their team. But the thing is, this is a great example. You were able to still get better results from your team, right? Same pressure, but you were able to alchemize it, and you were leading from your true self energy. This manager let that pressure be their leadership style. I'm going to lead from a place of my pressure part. Instead of with you, I'm going to lead from my true self energy. Our true self energy, right, is connected, compassionate, clear, confident. So you're leading from that energy of, come on everyone, like the connected energy, like let's do this, we're connected, let's do this, right? You're very clear in your connection to them, like they're a great team, I'm clear on this, I'm showing up in that. You're having confidence because you're being fun, you're being playful, right? So you led as a true self energy version of you as a leader. Better results, people showing up more, actually being like a dream team, person in your team, as opposed to, were they showing up like that with the other leader? No, because they could feel the other leader was coming from reaction, from a part of them, from the pressure part. Yeah. We talk about it from psychology and science. I love to bring psychology and science to help us land for people who might not be as aware about what emotional fitness is and such too, right? When our amygdala has lit up, and it's in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, like that energy. Our body's in that because our amygdala is very hyperactive. Our prefrontal cortex, right? I'll use this arm because I'm a bit stuck here. Our prefrontal cortex shuts down. Our prefrontal cortex is responsible for complex cognitive functions such as personality expression, understanding how to be socially acceptable, decision making, reasoning, actually like showing up and having confidence in what we're wanting out to get. All these things happen when we feel safe, because our amygdala is not as activated. So when our prefrontal cortex is actually more in full function, because we feel safer and we feel more in our true self energy, we can actually show personality more. We have better reasoning. We are better socially. It's amazing, right? And so when people are with you in that McDonald's setting, their personality could come out and they actually did better. They were more productive. With another person that didn't make the environment safe, they're working more in fight or flight, or their amygdala is more lit up. Literally, they become this shadow of a version of themselves. Bit more bored, not as, active. That's in any team or business as well. If we want a thriving team, if we want having a thriving database of clients and all this too, we should lead more from our true self energy and from a place where we're building safety, so people can flourish in that too and people want to be around us.
So is there anything that, like, if people want to become a better leader, like, is there something that you, like, your top 2 or 3 recommendations to be able to do, to be able to sit with yourself and be like, okay, what do I need to do this?
Yeah, okay. If people want to be a better leader, first thing is to know is the power of vulnerability, and also that vulnerability has boundaries. So the more we can be our true self and be willing to show our human, the more we give other people to be human. The more we can be in a space of feeling safe as human beings, as leaders, the more we can flourish, right? Whether that's attracting clients or teams or whatever else. So emotional safety is key. So building that sense of connecting to ourselves, like I taught before, those 4 steps, name it, own it, feel it, let it be. And then being willing to then be vulnerable so that we can give permission for people to be vulnerable, build that safe environment. We're going to thrive as leaders. The second thing I would say specifically as well, and part of the boundaries piece also is knowing what's okay and not okay.
Yeah.
So like I am the kindest, most caring, most compassionate person in a partnership, with friendships, with family, with my clients, with everyone. And I am so clear of my boundaries. I'm so clear of my boundaries. I know what's okay and what's not okay. And I will articulate with love and with care. And if someone keeps crossing, I'll know they're not someone I want to gel with and be around. And that's okay, right? Or might have to have a tough conversation,
Yeah.
But I'll bring it with love and I'll bring it with standards.
Yeah.
So that's super important, because what's the 3 qualities of self-esteem? Knowing our emotions, needs, and boundaries.
I think that's something that people need to do more as well, boundaries. Like,
Right.
realistically, because, I don't know, people don't voice them enough, or people probably don't know what their boundaries are. And then when they do, like, when someone does cross your own, like, your boundaries that you haven't set for yourself. But
That you don't even know you
had. Then you don't even know, but then that's the type of stuff that can, like, build up and build up and build up. Like, you keep a drop each time into the bucket, and then all of a sudden the bucket overflows and you blow up and you lose your best friend or something like that because you've kept crossing each other's boundaries or whatever. So I think that's a big one as well, learning your own boundaries and voicing them.
100%. This is why 50 to 70% of marriages divorce, even higher in some studies. There's different studies of different percentages, but 50 to 70%, even higher in some, because what happens is resentment builds. Right? Things unspoken build, because there's lack of emotional safety to go, hey, let's respect each other's boundaries, but also let's support each other to know that we're maybe not perfect in knowing our own boundaries, and to do our own sovereign work to know our own boundaries. It's like, I can't, for example, if we were in a relationship, it's like, oh, Sam, I want you to know the boundaries that I don't know in myself and give me what I don't know how to give myself.
Yeah.
Then it's a never ending story for you of trying to overgive, and then you lose yourself, and then we play out attachment styles, right?
Yeah.
Of like anxious or avoidant
Absolute
attachment styles,
roller
all this,
coaster,
there's a roller coaster. But imagine it was like this. Hey, I want to let you know I've done a lot of work, and this particular thing for me is something that I really need to feel safe. How does it feel for you to work with me, that we can build that safety for me? And I want to do that for you as well with your boundaries. You'd be like,
yeah. I don't know
rock
what I don't know what I feel. It just like spoke straight through me. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, yes.
you're like, whoa, I've always wanted this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like how much more loving and respectful than just being quiet and expecting you to know, and then building resentment, and then holding grudges. And then this is why there's so many divorces, because people don't know themselves. They get in relationships not knowing their needs, not knowing how to connect emotionally to themselves and others, and not knowing their boundaries. And so there's these people in these turmoilous relationships that end in terrible divorces. It all comes back to the emotional maturity side again, right? Like, before I go to the second piece around what we were talking about with leadership and being a better leader with that, but we come back to the emotions, the boundaries, the vulnerability, all of this. if we bring in some statistics, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, right, the 2021 to 22 study, 27% of adult women said and recorded that they had gone through physical or even sexual abuse with an intimate partner or family. And it was 12% for men. So that's 1 out of 4 women and 1 out of 8 men, adults, had recorded that they had gone through physical or sexual abuse in a domestic or a family relationship. Wild, ridiculous statistics. It's just not okay, right?
Yeah.
And
Like, it should be nothing.
We would want it to be.
Yeah, you'd hope.
How do we get to that beautiful fantasy of it being a 0%? Emotional fitness tools, emotional intimacy tools. Knowing our emotions, needs, and boundaries. Why are these people taking out their anger as abuse on others? Because they probably went through that in their childhood and they didn't have the tools to heal it. So now they're repeating those patterns down the generational lines, right? It's like, if we want to have less war, if we want to have less domestic violence, if we want to have less suicide rates, like in Australia, it's like 75% of the suicide rates were from men. Because for men, it's not as normal to be vulnerable, to feel emotions, right? It's changing now, thank F.
Yeah.
But generally, in the older generations, especially, men have to be stoic. They had to hold it together and not have emotions, right? And so that's why, like, these statistics, they could get to a point of being 0 as long as we know emotional fitness and we're teaching people these tools more.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. All right, what was the
Big
second
stuff,
thing?
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the second thing is to develop empathy skills. So we can say, like, having vulnerability, emotional maturity, all of that, specifically the skill of empathy is so incredibly powerful, because that builds the safety that it becomes then a better leadership, team or whatever else as well. So 4 steps to empathy.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do this. So 4 steps to empathy. Number 1 is to actually truly listen. I don't know if you've ever been around someone before where they just talk at you. Yeah, right? And for those who are listening, I'm sure we can all relate to being around certain people where it's emotionally draining being around them, because they will not stop talking about themselves and they're not really giving space for another person. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
They're taking energy, actually. So number 1 is to develop the active listening and actually listen. And it's funny because some people, I've gone to trainings before where they teach active listening, and then this is what happens. People then are like, if I'm listening, then I must be facing this way. I must be doing this. Must be eye contact. And guess what? They're not actually listening because they're thinking about how to look like they're listening.
Yeah.
But if we're generally listening to someone, it's very intuitive. We generally want to be more connected, closer in proximity, or keeping eye contact. It's like, if we're just generally listening, people can feel it. So number 1 is to listen, to really listen. Like, let's say you open up and I'm really here. And some ways I can do that is just to face you, to look at you, to be here, to not fold my arms, for example, to be open, to just listen. Right? So truly listen.
I've done that so much. Like, the folded my arms.
Right, and to speak to that too is like not to judge that, because sometimes that can be an unconscious, if it's cool if I put you on the spot here.
Yeah, no, go for it.
It can be an unconscious way to build safety in a moment where there could be a topic that's bringing something up that could have emotion. And so as safety, we might want to close. We might want to come back into our own safety. And that's okay. We don't need to judge that, right? But generally, like, we want to be able to get to a place where we feel that we can be open. And we feel that we can kind of receive someone's energy without, feeling like we need to protect ourselves. And that's the journey. It's been a beautiful journey like that. And so number 1 is to listen. Number 2 is to connect to their feelings. An empathy miss, as Brené Brown likes to explain it, is a sympathy versus empathy. Sympathy is I can have pity for you and sorrow for you for going through something. And I'm like, oh, poor you. Like, I'm still with you, but I'm kind of like, yeah, well, poor you. I can see that that's, empathy is, Sam, I'm right here with you. I get it. Like, I feel that. Could you feel the difference there?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So number 2 is to connect with their feelings, I love this saying, be there with them. Not be there in terms of like for them, in terms of, just like wanting to rescue, but be there with them. Sometimes that's all someone needs. Is I'm not in the rescue, like I need to be there for you and over exuberate. That's how we cross our own boundaries of over giving. I can just be there with you. I can just be with you as you feel your emotions and feelings, and just know that can also just be enough just to be there, right?
Sometimes actions speak louder than words, hey? Like, I know there's been times Where for me or for someone else, where it's just like, you just need to sit a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't need to say anything.
No.
Just hang out. Could be a hug, could be a handhold,
Oof.
could just be shoulder to shoulder, anything like that. Like, it's just, sometimes that's way more powerful than, you know, because like creating that safe space, like we spoke about earlier.
Exactly. That safe space, which, you know, you do so naturally, which, you know, is beautiful because we need more of that. So yeah, number 2 is to connect with their feelings, be there with them, right? And then number 3 is to actually acknowledge their pain. And that can be verbally. And that's green light language, like we talked about before. I love how this is all building on so organic. This is great.
Perfect.
Great. Right. The green light language is, for example, you're feeling something. I'm like, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Connecting.
you know, connecting. Yeah. It's like, thank you for sharing that. Like, you know, it totally makes sense that you're feeling that. Like, that's challenging, right? As opposed to, imagine you were opening up to me. Firstly, I wasn't listening, so I was very distracted. I'm looking around. I'm not really paying attention. Number 2, I'm having sympathy. So I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I can see you, but I'm not really with you. I'm leaning out. I'm crossing my arms, something like that, right? And then imagine me saying to you, oh, it'll be right. You'll get over it.
Yeah.
Or like, you don't feel that way. Stop crying. Don't feel that. Are you going to feel safe then want to keep being held? Like, no, you're going to be like, restrict, pull away. This is not a safe person, or like whatever else, right? And unfortunately, some people, that's their living environment, right?
Yeah.
This is why we got to create more safe community. But yeah, number 3 is actually like have green light language.
Yeah.
Validate that it's okay for them to feel that. You know, really acknowledge their pain is number 3. And number 4 is what you had mentioned. Number 4 is show them love. But in a way that matches. So let's say you got up and you kicked, you know, when you kick your toe on the corner. Oh, gosh, isn't that painful?
Killer.
Yeah, it's a killer. Let's say you got up and you kicked your little toe on the edge of this table.
Yeah.
And then I screamed and I'm like, oh my gosh, let me give you love, right? Like, I'm going to make sure that you have a like bed to lay on. And I ask them to bring pillows and blankets and I get them to lay you down and I'm like serving you tea. Like, is that appropriate level of love for that situation? Yeah,
Like, probably
not. I mean, you might like it.
Yeah,
You
like,
serve tea while
oh,
laying down.
This is great.
Great. Okay, I'm not gonna say no, but it might not be appropriate level of love in that moment. So we've got to have that discernment we talked about earlier, right? The gift of emotional fitness is the discernment piece. So I could be like, that sucks. I might come up and give you a hug and be like, oh, bro, that probably would have really hurt.
Yeah.
You know, or I just grab your hand for a second as you feel your pain. And I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah.
And so, but in some cases, sometimes someone's going through a breakup and they're going through a really tough time, and showing them love is, hey, I'm going to come over and cook you your favorite meal. You know, like I left an 8.5-year relationship about 7 months ago, and incredible at the end of a conscious relationship or teaching relationships. It was, you know, great. And yet our values and our vision were misaligned by the end of 8.5 years. We'd grown as people throughout our 20s into our 30s, and we weren't the same people anymore, had different needs and different values, right? And so when we were consciously uncoupling, one of the things that meant the most to me was one of my best friends. She called me and she said, I know that you love this filo dish. She's half Filipino. I'm going to come over and I'm going to cook you this filo dish.
Yeah, nice.
And she drove all the way to my house and she cooked me this meal, and we just sat there as I cried and ate my favorite meal with her.
Amazing.
And that was a level of love that I'm still to this day so grateful for. That got me through a lot, just thinking about that memory.
Yeah.
Right. And so how can we show love that's acceptable, or not acceptable, that's really appropriate for that situation? That for me, that was her empathy skills.
Yeah.
Her empathy was sitting there with me and giving me my favorite meal, you know? So that's the 4 steps to empathy. We can be a better leader in relationships, in business, in organizations, if we're able to have the discernment about what people need in each moment to feel safer and more loved. And having the tools around what we just said: listen, connect to their feelings, acknowledge their pain, and show them love.
That's
and that can be
amazing.
as simple as someone's frustrated about sending emails.
Yeah.
They have fear around sending an email.
Yeah.
Being empathetic with that. Being like, I totally get that. I've been there. I used to avoid sending emails too. Right? So it's all those different levels.
Yeah. Unreal.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jody. That was an unreal conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like mind boggled by half the stuff still. I'll have to watch this back at like half speed and be like, find all the places where I cross my arms and stuff like that, and for why I was doing that. Could be interesting.
Ooh, that could be interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to dive too deep into that, I don't think.
Well, let me know if you want to unpack it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. All right, thanks very much, Jody. Yeah, I'll make sure that I put all your stuff in the description if people know where to find you and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, so, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You know, I've got a website. At the moment, I am building more of my Instagram presence, so they're welcome to connect to me. Literally send me a DM. I'm so approachable, so.
Unreal. Thanks, Jody.
Thank you so much for having me, Sam.
No worries.
Yay.
Bye. How good.
Oh, that was awesome. Yay.